All right, well, welcome and thank you for coming to the Recreation Advisory Committee. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. Welcome everyone, and this is our first time meeting in council chambers, so this is exciting for all of us. I'm just going to read this note here. Please note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Now I'm just going to do roll call. So I'll start with Mary. Present. And Joanna. Present. And Vinny. And Stephanie. Okay. And now we will start our moment of reflection. Okay, and that concludes our moment of reflection. So we'll move on to confirmation of agenda. Is there any amendments to the agenda anyone would like to make? No, okay. And Laura, could I get you to read the resolution?
That the Recreation Advisory Committee approves the October 3rd, 2023 agenda as circulated.
Okay, and I'm gonna it's gonna get really repetitive here. A mover and a seconder, Mary. Second. Okay, all in favor? Okay, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any disclosures of conflict of interest? No? Okay, then we will move on to delegations, and I'll ask Luke Joy from Puss Minor Soccer to come forward regarding Puss Minor Soccer.
Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Bruce Joy. I am the president of the Puss Minor Soccer Club. Have been involved with the club for too long, 19 years. And okay, so you've got it.
Yes, I'm just going to.
I do have printed copies if anybody would like to have one. Can you bring up a PowerPoint? Bottom right.
Bottom right. Oh, I would have maybe.
Bruce, do you
Yes.
have a print?
I do. I have many.
Many.
So my address, I think that's what that is 3916 Side Road 25 South, West Lynch, Ontario. N0B2J0. Okay. Thank you for letting me speak on behalf of the Puss Minor Soccer Club. Next slide. Who's doing the slide?
Oh, it's a little different.
Oh, but that one said January 2022 on it at the front.
Did I send you the wrong one?
Yeah, this is the one you sent me, and then I looked at it about an hour ago and I thought,
Okay,
is this the right thing?
my mistake. It's on here, it says
Yeah,
a rec committee. Do
absolutely.
you mind?
That's easy.
That was from our AGM. My apologies for that.
No worries.
Busy day at work.
It happens.
So there'll be two PowerPoints on there. One would be from the AGM and then the other one would be, oh, there we go.
This is good.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's the one I was.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All good.
Oh, Stunning.
Bottom.
There you go. Next slide. So the agenda of this meeting is to introduce myself, talk about the master plan recommendations, the current field status, and our proposal to the township of Puss Lynch. Next slide. As I had mentioned, I've been with the club for 19 years, been president for 15 years. The club has been in existence for 40+ years. We're incorporated as a nonprofit organization. We're the largest minor sports organization in Puss Lynch. We are licensed by Canada Soccer as a quality soccer provider. One of about 250 clubs in Canada that are licensed. And there's probably 3,000 clubs, soccer clubs in Canada, and we're one of the lucky 250 that have been licensed by Canada Soccer. Currently, we have about 500 members, and we're anticipating it going up to about 520, 530 next year. One thing that many people do not know is the club donated $20,000 in 2020 for the new field. And unfortunately, with a lot of things that happened this past year, we lost about $15,000 because of returning from COVID and field rentals that we had to pay other people. Next slide. So in the master plan that was incorporated in 2014, the consultant recommended that the township provides one field for every 80 participants. There is a long-term need for 7.5 soccer fields. 2 additional fields were to be developed at the PCC, and that the township be prepared to explore alternative options for providing soccer fields. So that is in the master plan, which is about 300 pages or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. The current field status. We have one full-size soccer field in Pusswich, where they recommended 7.5 soccer fields. So as you can imagine, it was a very tough challenge to go out and rent fields for our members to play for the last several years, and especially this past year, where we could not play at the community center. Next slide, please. However, the good news is there are 2 fields under construction. There is an intermediate field, which is the old field, which allows for a smaller field that 12 and 11-year-olds can play on. Mr. Fowler said it would be sodded the 9th to the 13th sometime. We're hoping that with all the construction and the swells, that the new field will meet Ontario soccer standards. I'm concerned about the width, because it may not be wide enough, but we'll wait and see. I'm not allowed back there, but it doesn't look like it's wide enough. And then there's a full-size field at PCC with lights, and Mr. Fowler said that he's had council approval to sod that field, but he doesn't know when. So there's grass on it, but there's a lot of rocks on there. So it is unplayable by Ontario Soccer. So they guys have to resod it or rip it up and do stuff to it. So hopefully these 2 fields will be ready to be used next spring. But I'm not sure, because when you sod it, you have to let it sit for a year, usually, because you're playing soccer on it. So we're concerned about that. Next slide, please. So the soccer club, we discussed it at our board meeting. We have this proposal in lieu of the reduced fields. As I mentioned, we have 1 soccer field, and we're supposed to have, or they recommended 7.5 fields. That the township renew field maintenance contract at the Calvary Baptist Church. So let me explain. 7 years ago, we reached out to the Calvary Church to see, actually 10 years ago, to see if we could use their fields and create fields. The township agreed to maintain those fields in lieu of not providing fields. So they cut the grass, they did all the turf maintenance. 4 years ago, you ended that agreement. So we've been on the hook for maintaining those soccer fields. Second thing that the soccer club is asking for is the township waives the user fees in 2024 and 2025. Because we lost a lot of money last year, we need to not go bankrupt. And one of the things that we found out when renting Eden Mills and some other soccer fields is that they take care of the maintenance and the painting of the soccer lines. That's all in your rental fee. Currently, the soccer club lines of fields, provides the goals, provides the nets, provides the corner flags. So at the old, excuse me, at the old PCC, we rented the grass and we had to make it, turn it into a soccer field. So that is what we're asking, hoping to do, to reduce our losses next year. Next slide, please. Okay, oh, you're quick. One of the questions I have for this committee and the council is, what are the future plans for soccer fields in the township of Westminster? With the new fields that I previously mentioned, that'll be up to 1, 2, 3.5, because a lit field would be considered 1.5 fields. So that would be 3.5 fields, meaning that you're short 4 soccer fields based on the number of participants. There has been discussion about using some of the existing parks, but there's no parking. So I don't think that would be a good option. There is thinking of if you have any development for residential areas, that there would be a park assigned for that. Or is there any lands that the township can switch to soccer fields? Because we just don't have enough soccer fields for the number of players that we have. Short and quick, thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you, Bruce. I'm just writing some notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you like, sorry, just, I'll let you, do you want us to do the resolution first to receive the report, or we can ask questions and then we'll do the resolution?
I think you're gonna ask questions and then we'll do the resolution.
Okay, no problem. Then I'll open it up to questions.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mary.
I just have 2 questions. You mentioned that the club had to go bankrupt.
No, we
No.
have not gone bankrupt. We lost $15,000. If we continue to lose $15,000,
Then possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question was, was there no compensation or funding? I know the government was doing some supportive structures for companies or businesses or any organizations that lost money. Were you not eligible for any of that?
I
That's my
don't
first
believe it's not eligible for nonprofits.
Okay, and then my second question was, do you have an idea of how many players that place soccer
Mhm.
are Puss Lynch residents versus
Yep.
outside the
It's
township?
approximately 50%
Okay,
of the players. Yeah, so for example, if you have a team of 16 players, 8 would be Puss Lynch. But since you have to field 11, 12 players, you need to go out and get some extra players. So that's what we've done.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Joanna, do you have any questions at all?
You talked about the master plan in 2014.
Yeah.
And, you said it was recommended that you had 1 soccer field for every 80 players,
I believe that is correct.
correct?
Yeah.
Who made that recommendation?
The consultant, I don't know who the
Okay.
consultant was.
So it was someone that was supplied by the township?
Yeah, I may need help on this, but I think it's 2014, the
14,
Parks Master Plan was developed.
Okay.
That was done over the course of many meetings, many consultations with.
Yeah.
Council, user groups, the public, and they developed this plan. Which set the wheels into motion for a lot of the work that's being done right now.
Correct.
So the township agreed to the plan once it was created?
Correct. That plan is coming now up on 10 years old.
With
So-
alterations.
Yeah, we haven't executed the plan exactly to, the
What
way
they-
it was, it's definitely been modified along the way. But that's been sort of the initial guiding document. And now we're coming to the point where we're, I think, getting most of those projects, or at least the idea of those projects underway and completed. Is that how you understand it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the initial plan on the master plan was to build 2 fields at the PCC. So it'd be 3 fields, 2 intermediate and 1 large. That was canceled, whatever, changed, I don't know how many years ago. So it'd be only 1 lit field in that new area.
Okay. And a lit field is intermediate field.
No, it's full size
Oh, it's a full size, okay.
for the older kids, so they can play at 9 o'clock at night.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, thank you for that, Cody.
Okay,
I first just wanted to take a minute and say thank you to you for all your many years of service, heading up, Post Lunch Minor Soccer.
Okay.
I think that you should be very proud of the program that is in place.
Yep.
It's very highly regarded, and there's lots of involvement, lots of growth. And I did just want to take a minute to thank you and recognize Post Lunch Minor Soccer for the donations that you have contributed to the township.
thank you.
And I know I can also recognize that it has been challenging, especially this past probably 2 years, 3 years maybe even.
Yeah.
But you've persevered. So I just wanted to sort of start out and say thank you for that.
Okay,
I just wanted to kind of understand, when you say Post Lunch Minor Soccer has lost $15,000.
yes.
How does it work with the registration fees? Like, how are those determined? And do you try and just keep those the same every year? Or is there opportunity to increase those? So
Yes.
that you're not losing money? I'm just trying to understand how those.
Yeah,
two
so
reconcile.
basically, we set the registration fees the previous year, so right now we're setting it for 2024 to have a balanced budget. With the adaptation that we had to do to move from PCC, we had the red fields, so Eden Mills cost us $5,000. We had to go to the University of Guelph and play at the turf fields, because that was the only field we could get, and that was like $300 an hour. We had to rent other places, other fields in the city of Guelph. So we did not anticipate that this year. We had in fact received a contract to use PCC. So we thought everything was okay, and then it wasn't okay.
So when you say you're setting your fees now.
Yeah.
For next year. Do those kinds of things get taken into consideration?
Yeah, so we look at things like how much uniforms are gonna cost, so we
Right.
put in like a 10% increase.
And when do you set, so the reason I'm asking is
Sure.
because you've made some recommendations here
Right.
that or asks, I guess, from the
Yeah.
township.
Yeah.
Which I guess that the outcome of what those might be would impact potentially what your user fees will be for next year. Your registration fees will be for next year.
Right, yeah.
So when do you set, like, when would you need to know those things? Like, when do
We
you set
set
your?
we set most of the user fees in January, where we have our annual general meeting.
Okay, so that would be at least partially through our budget process.
Yeah.
Okay. So question for staff. So Post Lunch Minor Soccer asking for, if I'm understanding correctly, consideration for, the township to take over the maintenance contract at Calvary.
Yep.
The waiving the user fees of the 2024-2025 season, taking over painting the the lines,
Yeah,
and also inquiring about, opportunities for future fields. So, obviously, there's some financial impacts associated with those that, not only would this committee have to kind of understand, but definitely counsel through the budget process as well. And so what would be the best approach would it be to report back to this committee? Would it be to report back to council on what those costs, and not just costs, but, like manpower? Do we have the physical resources to be able to do that? I don't know, Mike Fowler, maybe, I don't know if you would be prepared to speak to that now, or if that's something you want to report back on.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think probably what would make the most sense would be if the rec committee were to receive the delegation for information and to forward the delegation material to council for consideration, and with any comments maybe that the committee had on the delegation material for council's consideration, for council to then direct and make decisions on what things like to see come up.
Okay. So maybe if I can, since there's only two of you, I don't know if you wanna have discussion on that or what your thoughts are on that.
On what Justine just proposed.
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds good. I think I agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need help wording that?
You could just say you're super for information on that.
Yeah, that the Recreation Advisory Committee received the delegation from Bruce Joy of Custom Minor Soccer for information. And that the Recreation Advisory Committee forward the delegation provided by Bruce Joy to council for their consideration. And that the following comments in writing be forwarded to council for consideration at a future meeting. And then if there's comments, we can add those comments and then that would be the recommendation resolution.
Would there be a recommendation for me to present at council, or would that be a good or a bad idea?
You could certainly submit a delegation request to council as well.
Okay,
It may be helpful, so so again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're gonna pass this as our resolution, that if you forward it to council for consideration, then that would appear on a council, I'm assuming, the budget agenda.
Yeah, we
Yes.
could, based on timing, it could go for October 18th.
Yeah, so then maybe in conjunction with council receiving that report would be a good opportunity for you to present to council as well.
okay,
And I can find you the information that's that delegation.
okay, thanks.
So do you want to maybe just read what you have?
Yeah. Do we want to add any comments?
I think, well, I should, do you want to add any comments, Mary or Joanna? I think as long as, it's in the presentation,
Yeah.
like the sort of the three asks,
Yeah.
the four asks
Yeah.
are already in the
Okay,
presentation.
that's fine.
Okay,
Okay, so you can take off that last.
Okay. okay. So that the delegation from Bruce Joy regarding Custom Minor Soccer be received for information and that the Recreation Advisory Committee forwards the delegation by Bruce Joy to council for consideration. That makes sense.
Do you want to possibly write for the October?
Mhm.
I don't know.
To
what
council
the
for
date-
consideration for the October 18th meeting.
Good with that, everyone? Okay, can I get a mover? Joanna, seconder, Mary, all in favor? That's carried.
Again, thank you for your time, appreciate it. Do you want me to pick up that USB key now or later?
You want, we had a couple extra.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are now on to consent agenda. So there are 4 items there. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone would like to pull out to discuss? I would like to pull out item 7.3. I don't know if anyone would like to speak specifically to 7.1, 7.2, or 7.4. And if not, we'll just receive all of those together. Mary, do you wanna pull out any of those? The committee minutes, the user fees and charges, or the revenue comparators? No? Yeah. Okay, so, we'll just pull out 7.3 and then we can receive the rest of them. So you have a resolution, so you can read that?
Yeah, the consent agenda items 7.1, 7.2, and 7.4 listed for the October 3rd, 2023 Recreation Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. And that consent agenda item 7.3 be pulled out of the agenda.
Okay, and can I get a mover? Joanna, any seconder, Mary, and all in favor? Carried. Okay, 7.3. I wanted to pull this one out, so this is in regards to some funding opportunities that the province is offering to municipalities who don't currently have any seniors active living programs in place in order to help municipalities start a new program. And I also felt that this was something that we could benefit from here in Plessis, since we don't have any seniors active living programs in place. And they tasked our committee to engage with community groups to determine what programs we could get started and use this funding for. So I just wanted to sort of bring that up and see if there was any discussion or ideas. I was thinking maybe this was something that we could put to the engagement, which I think is you and I, the engagement opportunity subcommittee. But I'm happy to hear any ideas or discussion.
If I could speak.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a really great idea, especially for the seniors to have opportunities. I'm just concerned about the logistics and how it would all work, but I guess that would have to be sort of worked through the subcommittee to see what the opportunities and options are there. But I mean, I've heard a lot from our community that there's a need for that, so.
Anything?
Do you have anything in mind at the moment, or do you want to just save that for the subcommittee?
I don't have anything necessarily in mind. I think probably the best approach would be to try and make some connections with seniors in the community and find out what it is that they may want. Maybe actually, Sarah, I could ask you from like a facilities rental perspective, would staff have an idea of what kind of inquiries we might be getting, or what kind of, things people are asking for in the community?
We don't get a lot of requests for specific programming because I think people know that we don't actually offer any recreation programs ourselves. We have had periodically some inquiries about seniors programs, if there is anything that we offer. Right now, there's some senior programming that is being run privately that does utilize the gym for quite a few days and hours each week. But outside of that, we really haven't received a lot of specific requests or inquiries about that. Because I think that the public knows that just those opportunities aren't there at this time.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I think that's something that we could absolutely work on as a subcommittee to try and gauge what people are looking for. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, probably shouldn't say this because I don't know. I think this funding is every year.
I believe that's.
Yeah, so we'd be looking to do something for next year. So we have. So would it be beneficial to put that in a resolution that the subcommittee take on that task of engaging the community for seniors active living programs?
Yeah, so we could say that the consent agenda item 7.3, resolution 2023-223 seniors active living centers program expansion be pulled out for the recreation advisory committee's consideration, and that it get moved to the engagement subcommittee for future discussion. Sure. Is it the engagement subcommittee?
Yeah, I think we have called it the engagement opportunities subcommittee.
Okay. Get referred to, not moved to. Referred to the engagement opportunity subcommittee is the correct wording. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, can I get a mover? Joanna, sure. Seconder, Mary, any more discussion on that? Okay. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay. Okay, so now we are on to committee reports, is that right? Okay, so report 8.1, proposed amendment to the Recreation Advisory Committee terms of reference. Is anyone presenting this or just?
Yeah. So the purpose of this report is to amend the Recreation Advisory Committee's terms of reference and to increase the number of meetings. It currently sits at 4 and the number would increase to 8. And 2 of those meetings would be joint with the Youth Advisory Committee. So you would have 6 individual meetings and then 2 meetings with the Youth Advisory Committee meeting. I guess the only thing that's also to note is the Youth Advisory Committee meets Mondays at 6. So we would meet during their time. The proposals to meet at their time, so we would go in their meetings.
Yeah, so this is obviously a change from what, the commitment expectation would have been of you when you volunteered to be on this committee, so, you know, council felt it was important to not just impose this change, but to inquire as to whether that would work for everyone, if it would be acceptable, but I think, you know, as you know, when we have these big gaps in between meetings, it's hard to kind of get momentum going on anything, so I think that, if we meet more frequently, we can probably get more sort of the ball rolling on things. And I think there's so much collaboration, so many collaborative opportunities with the youth committee that it makes a lot of sense to have those joint meetings. So what are your thoughts on that, Mary?
Yeah, 2 of my children.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So I'm kind of involved in it.
yeah.
But, yeah, so I agree. I think the meetings were very spread out and it felt a little like too much of a distance between getting together. And I think this gives us an opportunity to be able to be more focused
Yeah.
and spend more time working on things that we need to focus on. So I like that idea. I'm not sure how the youth committee got pulled into it, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there has been a couple of times where it's like, even just like
Well, they
discussions
presented.
with, they presented and even, you know,
Bit of overlap.
I think, you know, like at one of our council meetings, I think it was Councillor Bailey mentioned, you know, we have programming for younger kids and maybe adults, but not so much the like in between, like the teenage group, which the youth committee is made up of mostly that age group. So, you know, that would be a good age group to work collaboratively with to determine, you know, what do they want and what can we do for them? So it makes a lot of sense, I think.
I would agree. I think, you know, when I first started on this committee, I felt that there was a large gap, especially for the summer months.
Yeah,
You know, I think the last time we met was May,
yeah,
and now it's October, so it's almost an entire year. And to your point, it is hard to get momentum there. My own personal conflict is, I have other volunteer commitments on Tuesdays. And so I usually skip that to be here.
okay,
So if we were to do more frequently, this meeting always seems to fall on the same Tuesday of the month that I have a prior commitment. So that's my own personal
okay.
thing, but I would agree that this committee should meet more. I think it would be more beneficial if we did.
So is there flexibility that we could, like if there's consistent conflict with the schedule, that we could move the days?
So, through you, Madam Chair, since we are currently reviewing and making an amendment to the terms of reference, this would be the opportunity to make a further amendment to the terms of reference.
Okay,
Where an alternative, kind of standing date could be picked. So currently in the Recreation Advisory Committee's terms of reference, the meetings are scheduled the 3rd Tuesday
okay.
of every month. So you could propose an alternative date to be considered by council for approval.
Would you happen to know those?
Yeah, so I'm on the Optimist Club as well.
Yeah.
And we meet the 3rd Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
So, I think it's the 2nd and the 3rd, because I'm on the board there as well, so we meet the 2nd and 3rd Tuesday of every month.
The 2nd and 3rd Tuesday.
So,
Yeah, no, that's important to have. It's too bad that we don't have Vinny and Stephanie here too, because.
And Vinny's also on the Optimist Club with me.
Right,
He's not on the board though, but he would
Yeah.
be,
okay.
he skips the third Tuesday meetings to be this one as well.
So. Not to throw a wrench in the plans here, but if we were to switch it to the fourth Tuesday of every month. Would that, now we're taking every Tuesday of your month, but
No, that's okay. I have to make that decision now, because I'm like, is it every third or is it every fourth? Now I'm second guessing myself, but, yes, because do I have to make that decision right now, tonight?
I don't know, I'm looking for staff to help me.
If we were to make an amendment on the day, it would have to be this evening, correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, it would be, we could bring it back, it would just require multiple amendments and potentially multiple reports. So there could be a decision made on the addition of the meetings tonight, and then another report could be brought to the November meeting for an additional request for an amendment to council at a later date.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can split it up and agree to the addition of the, like to have, that will have all of the 8 meetings per year, but in terms of the actual scheduled dates, can we break that into like?
Well, especially if we, because we're missing half of the committee right now.
Yeah.
Like,
The
I don't wanna
only
see-
difficulty that poses is the creation of the council calendar, which we are looking to secure.
Okay, so let me ask it a different way. So if we were to, adopt this as is, knowing that it's not necessary, or let's just say we change it to the fourth, maybe that's a safer bet. And that if those dates, if there's a specific ones of those dates that don't work, that we can canvass all of the committee members and, alternate just like individual meetings from there, is that
We could
something we could do?
that.
Yeah, it is difficult without everyone here to know what everyone's availability is. Would that work, Justine?
Just for the fourth Tuesday, are we?
Well, and
I just sent him, I just texted the president of office, thought just to double check when the dinner meetings were, because I can't remember if it was the fourth or the third. But if the dinner meetings are on the third week, then I think the fourth would be,
okay, or the
acceptable.
first, is the first week for sure not one? not
the
a-
first week is for sure not fun.
So what if we tentatively set it for the first Tuesday of every other month?
Would that be all?
That's PDAC. Pardon?
No, PDAC is the second.
PDAC is the second Tuesday, youth is the first Monday, and heritage is the first Monday. So.
It's good. It's normal for
It
you.
would just make it. That's not on you.
Alternatively, the committee could consider Thursdays. The third Thursday or second Thursday or
Thursday works for me. But again, I don't know about any.
I know. Do Thursdays work for you?
Think so.
If we should have canvassed. Why don't we say the third Thursday of every month, we'll put it in as a holding place, and if that doesn't work, then we'll come back and revisit it. Does that sound fair? Okay.
So he just got back to me, it is the fourth Tuesday of every, so that works, the third.
Okay, so the third Thursday of each month.
The third Thursday.
Yes.
So that's staff report REC 2023-10 regarding the proposed amendment to the Recreation Advisory Committee terms of reference be received for information. And further that the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting endorses the proposed amendment to the committee's terms of reference to increase the number of committee meetings per year to 8, including 2 joint meetings with the Youth Advisory Committee to be considered by council at a future meeting, and that the Recreation Advisory Committee proposed that the meeting date be moved to the 3rd Thursday of each month.
Yes, and now I'm looking at this and I realize they're 2 separate reports, 2 separate
With the meeting
resolutions.
dates.
Yeah.
So,
I was trying to.
That's okay.
so why don't we do 8.1 first, which is just accepting the proposed terms of reference,
Mhm.
and then we'll do a separate resolution for the schedule.
I think might be good to include this in this resolution because we want to make sure we can update the terms of reference as
Okay.
well alongside of it, but then we can also make that
Okay.
addition in the next.
Okay, that sounds good. So we're good the way it's written then?
Mhm.
Okay, so can I get a mover? Mary, seconder, Joanna, any more discussion on that?
No.
Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, and then I'll get you to read the resolution then for 8.2.
So that the staff report REC 2023-11 regarding the proposed 2024 Recreation Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. And that the 2024 Recreation Advisory Committee schedule meeting date be moved to the 3rd Tuesday of each month,
Thursday.
3rd Thursday of each month. The proposed meeting date be moved to the 3rd Thursday of each month.
When we say each month, do we mean like September?
Each,
Each.
It's like every other-
Each proposed,
Okay,
we could.
meeting
we could-
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But it isn't, no, it's not 12.
okay,
And then 2 of those would be the first Monday.
yeah, so those dates won't change. The ones with the youth committee will stay as they were originally proposed, which
So
is
January and May.
Is the youth committee?
Mhm.
January 15th and May 6th. Okay, get a mover. Joanna, seconder, Mary, any more discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you very much for working through that. Okay, so now we are on to committee goals and objectives training, is that right?
So the purpose of this report is to review how the goals and objectives are set. So there's been a criteria that's been set out in the report with an emphasis on the requirement that the goals and objectives are to be completed by committee members and that they're more committee-led initiatives and then to be done through subcommittee work as well.
Okay, and then there's a form. If we're gonna modify the objectives, goals and objectives, there's a form that we would fill out. Is that by the member of the committee or by the committee as a whole?
Each individual member could fill that out.
Okay. I don't know, I'm just gonna go, Mary, do you have questions about this? Questions, comments?
The goals and objectives?
Not the goals and objectives, just the process of modifying the goals and objectives.
And sorry, what is the proposed change?
Not necessarily a change, but excuse me. More just if you are setting out a goal and objective, that it hits the criteria. Like you still fill out the form that you would have previously.
Okay,
But that it just has to hit, like it'll go through that criteria in that report to make sure it hits. Does that make sense?
So this, I think this is just a little bit confusing because the next report we're gonna talk about is the actual goals and objectives for the term. This particular report is just basically going over the process that once we have those goals and objectives in place, if we want to add or modify any, this would be the process that we would have to go through. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this report is just to provide additional training on the committee's goals and objectives process. And to develop a criteria that the committee can consider when they are going to add or
Okay,
amend goals and objectives, and just to ensure that these criteria are considered going through that process. So it's just additional training on the
Okay.
process.
okay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's these 3 bullets here then that we're proposing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's this proposal form that's attached, so. I can't remember if we filled these out as part of our initial goals and objectives, or if this is a new form, but. In any case, this would be the form you'd fill out if any member wanted to add new goals and objectives to our terms. Okay, do you want to read that resolution then?
The staff report REC 2023-012 regarding community goals and objectives training be received for information.
Okay, can I get a mover? Mary, seconder, Joanna, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so then the next report is the actual committee goals and objectives. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I was just saying before the meeting started, I thought we already did this, but I think there was some things that were still under consideration. Can you just touch on that?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So at the May meeting, there was a review of the goals and objectives that were proposed. Following that meeting, there was direction to develop some goals and objectives proposals with the subcommittees. A couple changes were made to those with recommendations related to the Morrison Meadows Small Ball Diamond upgrade and the Wayne Stokely Trail Bench. And the kind of changes to those are contained in this report. So then the kind of final list of proposed objectives is included for the committee to then endorse and then present to council's approval, just as kind of your final version for this year.
Okay, and then, once this committee approves the goals and objectives, it would go to council will endorse it, and then we can take off with the goals and objectives. And can you also just, give us, sort of explain the process for setting up the subcommittee meetings? So we haven't had any, at least I don't think anyone's had any yet. So if we want to get the ball rolling on those subcommittee meetings, is that something that staff can coordinate with us or help us coordinate, or are we as subcommittee members, should we just be scheduling those on our own outside of, with no staff presence, or can you just explain what the expectation is for the subcommittees?
Through you, Madam Chair. It's kind of a bit of both. Staff are certainly available as a support, to support in subcommittee meetings. Staff are able to attend, just keeping in mind kind of staff's availability.
Yeah.
Alternatively, subcommittees also are able to meet without staff's presence to continue work. So again, it's a bit of both.
Okay.
Staff will be reaching out to have kind of initial subcommittee
Yeah.
meetings. Once these have been formally endorsed by council and.
Okay.
we'll move forward.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. But I will definitely open it up to questions, comments, concerns.
For the things that we still need to approve, can you remind me, because it has been some time since we looked at these goals and objectives, can you remind me what we still need to review in order to pass it? Or we'll just pass it?
It's just contained in the report. So
Okay.
there was the 2 that were kind of outstanding, which we provide an update on, and then it's just formalizing essentially that what's contained in this report kind of as presented is what the committee is comfortable with endorsing.
Mary, do you have questions?
Well, I'm just thinking back, I know I can't speak sort of for Vinny, but I was thinking about his concern about how, like I notice here that this is now set out for the Wayne Stokely Trail Bench. It's set out to be a fundraising opportunity. And I think, is this now going to fall under the fundraising subcommittee
And
to go with the sign as well?
Yes, and I did talk to Vinny about this before. This was put in the report, just what we were
Okay.
thinking, how council is hoping. How the council has drafted a donation policy, and then that it could be part of the donation policy and then part of the fundraising subcommittee as well. And Vinny did respond to that email saying, yes, good idea, good to go. So then we included a
Okay.
report like that.
Okay.
For the donation component of it, so
Mhm.
it sounds like there's two pieces of
Mhm.
either fundraising or donation. I feel like this fundraising subcommittee has a lot on their plate. In terms of potentially canvassing potential donations of a bench, is that maybe something, now I'm putting it on our plate, but maybe the engagement subcommittee could
Absolutely.
assist with trying to find some donating sources? Would that be reasonable? And is that something you need to put in the resolution or just something that we note and
I
can
think
work
it
on?
can be captured by direction.
Yeah, okay. Did you have any other?
I did, I had one further question. I just sort of wondered, do we have anything on our website to let people in the community know, to say we're looking for these resources for the community and if anyone wants to do it, I mean, do we have anything like that?
Through you, Madam Chair, currently related to the Parks Revitalization project, yes, there is a donation page, there's information about it, so it has been solicited that way, and previous work completed by the committee was a letter sent out for donations. With respect to the sign, the subcommittee has not begun work on that, and proposals related to fundraising for that, so that has not been included. But those would be kind of opportunities that would be up to the subcommittee to kind of work on and recommend.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions at all?
No.
Okay. Okay, so do you want to read the resolution? now?
Yeah, the staff report REC 2023-013 entitled 2022 to 2026 Recreation Advisory Committee Goals and Objectives be received for information, and that the committee approves the 2022 to 2026 Recreation Committee Goals and Objectives as presented for council's endorsement at a future council meeting.
Okay, can I get a mover? Joanna, seconder, Mary, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, we're getting there. Recreation Committee budget.
So the purpose of this report is to consider the proposed 2024 budget. And then to date, there still has been no budget requests that have been received for 2024.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to look at this, what's being proposed as the budget? There's some administrative costs and then also some, advertising or promotion, I should say. And, I might need Mike's help on this, but I just wanted to touch on the promotion piece of the, Slunch Community Center. At our most recent council meeting, we had a really good report and a discussion about the PCC and the rentals of the PCC and the use of the PCC. Since the PCC has reopened since after COVID, there's been a bit of a shift in the use of the community center from a community-based rental facility to more of like a commercial event facility. And that, although is great that it's getting well used, has presented some challenges in terms of things like staffing. There's been a lot of damages, vandalism. It's really hard on the septic system. There's many events where the attendees are way above what the capacity of the building should be. And so council's made some changes to the way the PCC is rented, and I might need either Sarah or Mike to help me explain that properly. But looking at reducing the capacity of the Slunch Community Center to events that are for only 100 people or less for non-community events. to add staffing presence to it. And what's the other thing, Sarah? Having windows of time in between to properly clean the building in between rentals. Correct. So I guess where I'm going with this is the PCC is getting used. I don't necessarily know that we need to be spending any promotional dollars in advertising to get more use of the PCC, especially when we're kind of trying to scale it back a little bit to community use. So, we have this $1,600 in our current budget to be allocated to the promotion of the community center. But, what I was thinking is that we maybe reallocate some of it to promoting, so in the community, we don't have any Puss Lynch-led recreational programming. It's not, we don't have like, Puss Lynch-led staff, like staff don't have, like yoga classes and cooking classes and things like that. But we do have the facilities available for groups to be able to rent them, to be able to offer those programming, which would be, in my mind, a good benefit to the community. So maybe instead of advertising the Puss Lynch Community Center for corporate events, things like that, we should use that money to promote it to groups who will offer programming in our facilities. That was a really long-winded way of saying that. I don't know if, Sarah or Mike, if there's anything you wanted to add to that about the PCC. Did I capture that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, you're saying to help promote potential programs that we could host at the PCC, not go toward the programs themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. What do you think about that idea?
I think it's great.
Do we have proposed programs? Because I mean, in our last conversation, we were saying that, I know there's nothing really for seniors, but are there other like yoga classes? Are there things that people want to do that they're not currently able to do?
Well, we
Or
don't
to run?
know.
We don't
That
know.
would be part of the engagement,
Okay,
right?
so trying to get people to basically know that this is available, we want this as a community. These certain programs created.
Yeah, so it would be like, you know, reaching out to, I don't
I
know.
have an idea.
Yeah,
Mary Dawn Roberts is in Puss Lynch and she's an artist. Perhaps she'd be willing to come and host or run some art classes. I don't know. I know she has her own gallery
yeah.
and she does have her own space, but it might open it up more to people within the area as well.
Yeah, I like that idea, that's a great idea.
So I don't know, that's not necessarily adding any money to the budget request, it's just changing what it's allocated to.
Right.
Does that need to be captured in that, or is that just?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think, with it being kind of broad in terms of, promotion, likely we wouldn't have to make kind of
Okay.
specific changes related to that.
Okay. Is there anything anyone else would like to add or talk about in terms of the budget? No? Okay.
The only thing I wanted to suggest maybe was to the engagement committee. There was a list of, I had provided in the PowerPoint from the conference.
Yeah.
And it listed some ideas of popular items for seniors, so that might be a place to start.
Yeah, okay. So we can look at that. Okay, then do you want to read this
Yeah,
resolution?
that staff report REC 2023 014 regarding the proposed 2024 Recreation Advisory Committee budget be received for information.
Okay, can I get a mover? Joanne, seconder, Mary, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, verbal update. Parks Master Plan update. Is that Mr. Fowler, are you presenting it?
Yes, he is presenting that.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so the latest update for the Parks Master Plan is, currently a lot of the rough grading and fine grading has commenced. Just today, the tennis courts were paved. A couple trails were paved. Back parking lot has been constructed, curb is in place, paving is slated for tomorrow. As Mr. Joy indicated, between October 9th and 13th is when the intermediate soccer field is expected to be sodded along with hydro seeding on all the other spots. Currently waiting on plants and trees to show up on site and to be planted, so things are moving along well. In regards to Borum Park, we're about 90% complete. In my opinion, it looks absolutely phenomenal. The architect and contractor did a wonderful job. We're currently just in the final stages of soft landscaping and tidy up. So we should be ready for our October 19th grant funded unveiling. So that's the update for the Parks Master Plan. And like it has all summer long, it will probably change due to weather or events that pop up at the PCC. But overall, we were able to pull off the fall fair and continue construction. So that's all I have to report.
Awesome. It's, I have not been able to look at the PCC, the paving of the tennis courts. That's exciting, and the trails, but I can tell you for sure, I have been in Borum Park almost every day. There's a lot of excitement there, and the kids are already playing there, so it looks really great, and it's very exciting. Does anyone have any questions for Mike at all? No? Okay. And can we read the
That's a
resolution?
verbal update from Mike Fowler, Director of Public Works, Parks and Facilities, be received for information.
Mover, Mary, second, all in favor? Carried. Okay, where are we at? Sorry, correspondence. Correspondence. Is there any correspondence? No. None. So then we're on to announcements. Any announcements? Okay, Chelsea.
Through you, Madam Chair, as Mr. Fowler had indicated, there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony for Borum Park. It'll be on October 20th at 11 a.m.
20th or 19th?
The 20th,
Okay.
at 11 a.m. and members of the.
I'm so excited I'll be there early.
Of course, will be invited. And we'll be sending out information as well.
Very exciting. October 20th, 11 a.m. What day of the week is that?
It's a Friday.
Friday, okay. Awesome. Do you have any announcements at all? Do you?
No.
I think this is under announcements, or I'm not sure. But I did also just want to make note of earlier this summer that we also did receive a donation from Puslin Minor Ball. And that was during one of their games. I'm sure, I think Mary, you were there.
Yeah.
They presented a check for $3,000 as a contribution to the park's revitalization. So I just also wanted to say thank you and recognize Puslin Minor Ball for their contribution. And it was Vinny and Mary were there, so thank you for being there to accept that. And actually, the other thing is, I meant to write this down, but we attended the fire, there's a fire department open house, I believe.
Christine has a lot of,
October
she has a lot
28th.
of information on that because she read it last night.
Yeah, Puslin Fire and Rescue is having an open house October 28th, 2023 from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. There will be fire truck tours, an opportunity for firefighters, Pluggy and Sparky will be there, an antique fire pumper, and there'll be firefighter skills demonstrations.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So if you can make it to that, spread the word, help them get the, get that invitation out to the community, that's great too.
Sorry, that was the 28th.
Okay, notice of motion, any notices of motion? No, new business, any new business? Adjournment. Can I get a
The
motion?
Recreation Advisory Committee hereby adjourns at 8:04 p.m.
Okay, well, that was fast. Get a mover and a seconder, Mary and Joanna, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.